we've got the CIO of CIOs who's going to be on stage next. He was the CIO at Microsoft, and many other places that he'll tell you about, and also the CIO for the United States of America. And I'd like you to all please welcome to the stage Tony Scott.
Sometimes I wanna disappear.
Thanks.
Well, good morning. I didn't bring any slides. What I thought I would do is, tell you a few digitization stories. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what all institutions are going through. My view is digitization is relentless. It's affecting every business, every industry, every government institution, every single thing that we deal with in our lives. And what do I mean by digitization? Well, let me make a distinction between automation, which a lot of us have been doing for years, and digitization, which is really changing the way business works. And let me give you one simple example from my past. As Josh mentioned, I've had a few roles. I was the CIO for the last 2 years of the Obama administration as federal CIO, and I was CIO at VMWare and the Walt Disney Company and Microsoft in my career. But one of the most fun jobs I had was CTO at General Motors. And I joined General Motors in late 1999, and we had a really big business problem. And the business problem that we had was it took us 5.5 years to design and then produce a car. Meaning that if we decided we wanted to do a new car, a new design, if we really worked hard, 5.5 years later, we could have one roll off the production line. Now, I don't care what you say, cars are a bit of a fashion business. I'd like any of you to tell me what fashion's going to be 5.5 years from now. If you can, I'd like to see you outside because you're clairvoyant. And we knew that we couldn't keep pace with the industry or do the things that we needed to do as a business with that kind of a design process. And the IT organization got together and we looked at why does it take so long to design a car? And the answer won't surprise you. We had silos of information, silos of data, silos of business processes. Our design guys, the ones who are the artists, the creative guys who drew the designs and came up with the concepts for cars, had available to them the finest technology that money could buy. Similarly, our engineers had the finest computer-aided design technology that money could buy. So did our manufacturing engineers. Our plants were equipped with the latest robotics and so on. So you'd say, what's the problem? And the answer was we were all siloed in our work processes, and the interface between one part of the design process and the next was paper. The design guys would do all their great work, print it out on paper. And that would get translated to the next step, put into a system. The output would be paper. And what we did was very simple. We decided to create a math-based highway to connect all these things together so that there was upstream and downstream visibility to all parts of the process. And we set a design goal of 18 months. We said from the time we think of a car till the time we want to produce one should be no longer than 18 months. And it took 2 or 3 years to get it all working correctly. But when we did, we not only produced a car in 18 months, but it was the highest quality car that GM had ever produced up to that point, because there was fidelity across all of the processes. And it fundamentally changed the way GM does business. Now, I give you that example to show you a really large enterprise example of what I think of as digitization, which is fundamentally changing the business process. Now, one of the tests that you can use in your organization is imagine your org chart, the org chart of your organization. And you all have this mental model, I'm sure. It's a simple line chart. There's the CEO and the marketing department, the sales department, all the other functions of your organization. And think about the systems that support your organization. And if you were to draw a chart of those, in many established organizations, the two would be a mirror of one another. The org chart would look exactly like the systems chart, if you will. The systems are set up to support an organizational construct. Today's digital business reality is a complex web of interactions. Now, as a CIO, traditionally we've addressed that problem by building interfaces between all of these systems. We've created a further knotty web of APIs and interfaces and all the rest of it to exchange the little bit of information that at some point in time we thought was necessary to flow from one system to the next. And if you've been in IT or worked with IT, you see this pattern over and over and over again. And the business of digitization is essentially figuring out a way to overcome that blueprint or that inertia that exists in so many organizations. When I first got exposed to Domo, I said to myself, within 10 minutes of hearing the story, this is the answer to the problems that we've created for ourselves over time. Now, it's different if you're a brand new business and you can start with modern technology, but few companies have that option. And what I loved about Domo, and I think the message for all my friends in IT out there, is I don't have to do a heavy lift and shift of all these legacy applications and so on to get at the data and to recreate or to create in the first place the new business processes, the visibility that I want to have across the organization. And it's not just internal to the organization. Most of us that work in any large complex business have tons of suppliers and people that we interact with, outsourcers, all kinds of companies. And if you were to draw it out on a map, you'd see this complex web of interactions. It's not all within my four walls or all within my control today. So one of the things I also love about Domo is the ability to look at all of that information potentially as well. Now, as a CIO, I had a construct that I'll share with you. If you find useful, you feel free to use it. A lot of people think that the CIO is all about control, that our job is just to protect the enterprise and to squeeze dollars out of the budget and to keep departments from doing things and so on. And the CIO can be Mr. No, or the department of no. No, you can't do that. And what I realized a few years ago is the company has given me usually the responsibility to manage a certain set of things, and let's call that a blue box. And then I exercise influence over another box that's much bigger. Let's call that a gray box, to use some Domo colors maybe. The things I absolutely have to control have usually to do with legal issues, security, privacy, those kinds of things. But the bigger box of gray things that I have influence over is probably where I think most good CIOs spend most of their time. It's talking with the business about the changes that are coming, about how to improve the performance of the business, about how to be a better business partner, and things that are important to the business overall. And so if you're here working at Domo, I want to encourage you to embrace the CIO. Love the CIO. We're friendly people. We can be really fun to work with. And once we understand what the power of Domo really is, we can probably be your best partner. What I realized about Domo was that I didn't have to go think about heavy lifting and replacing an ERP system or some other capability. I could put Domo on top of that, extract the information I needed, create real-time information for important people in my business, and it could even help me run IT better. My only regret is that Domo didn't exist when I was having to do all of this at some of the prior companies. So my message to you is simple. Embrace the CIO, love the CIO, have fun with us. We can be your best friends.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. So I got a couple questions for you.
Sure.
So I got to see you in Japan,
That was fun.
and your first
He's a really good karaoke singer, by the way.
This is true. That might be an entrance sometime. I could do karaoke for an entrance. It would probably not hurt as much as the slide. But the first 4 or 5 slides were just, it's like mic drop. It's the Tony Scott mic drop. So I put a couple of them up here. I'd love you to walk us through these, and then I got a few questions for you. But I mean, that's a stupid slide.
Yeah, I pinch myself still, frankly. I mean, it's
Been there, done that, right?
kind of, yeah, just a little crazy. But
Okay, tell us this story.
well, this could have been a Domo Stormy. So this is my first day on the job. I show up for orientation, and they say to me, by the way, you have a meeting with the president and Joe Biden right after lunch.
This is your first day.
First day on the job.
Okay.
So you can see I have this kind of stunned look on my face. Like, what the hell am I doing here? First time I'd ever been in the White House, in the Oval Office. But what we were showing President Obama was some work that my team had done, showing the president how many people were visiting US federal websites at real time at that moment. Now, I can't tell you how much work it took to do that. Again, if we'd known about Domo, we could have done this a lot quicker, I think. That's the view from my office. So I could see comings and goings of dignitaries and when the Pope came and all that. So it was a front row seat to everything that was there at the White House. It was kind of fun. That's the West Wing on the right-hand side. Got to do some fun things like go to Camp David and see a bunch of historical artifacts. The peace accord that Jimmy Carter did with Menachem Begin and so on, the originals are all there. It's a pretty cool place. Cheyenne Mountain. I always wanted to go there because you see this big command center and it's nothing like what you see in the movies.
Is this NORAD?
Yeah. Really, really cool place.
That's all you have to say about it, huh? Can't say anything else?
I'd have to.
That's really helpful, Tony.
Yeah, sorry. I'd have to shoot you if I told you anymore. So, this is a bad day at work. I'm having to testify in front of Congress about the OPM breach.
You've got that same look on your face.
It was the same feeling. Like, what the hell am I doing here? We had 21 million records stolen from the Office of Personnel Management, and these are people that applied for career cleared positions. So we had a lot of sensitive personnel data. Not a good experience. Last day on the job. So as a political appointee, on the last day of the administration, you get to go in the office and say goodbye and have your picture taken. So,
Well, there's something that was said too, right?
yeah,
That's not going to be public either.
no.
So I guess one big question, the one big question I had is, and I heard you talking about, involving the office of the CIO. What's the right way to approach the office of the CIO? You've got a project. There may be multiple technologies already in the organization. You might be nervous about going in, being the nail that sticks up. Instead of having a collaborative conversation, you might get kicked out, and the project that you're working on that you thought you didn't need any air cover for, now you're trying to go get air cover, and instead you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Sure.
How do you navigate that? What's your advice on that?
I think it's going to vary by organization. I always had something called an incubation group who was out there scouring for new ideas, looking for great technology and so on. And so for me, that was a great avenue in. I would always take a meeting with an organization that they had vetted and were excited.
So the smart business leaders in your org at
Yeah.
Microsoft or at
Yeah.
Walt Disney Group or VMware, if they went through that channel through your lieutenant that was responsible for vetting new things,
Yep.
that's kind of how you go through the front door
That
there.
was always a great way in. Now, the real test was, did you get a second meeting or not?
Right.
Did you bring something of value that piqued my curiosity or made me want to learn more? Then you'd get a second meeting. If you were just another red brick in a world of bricks, then I was like, okay.
So sometimes it's appropriate to go straight to you. Other times it's more appropriate to kind of go to your team that you've set up
Yeah.
for that specific purpose.
Exactly. And also really helpful is understanding what business problems we're working on. So if somebody came in and said, I've got a great way of solving some pressing issue that you're working on, I was all ears. If it was something that was way down on my list, it's like,
Let your team do that.
yeah, this is not that interesting.
That
And
makes
I also looked for success. I also learned from my peers. So in almost every industry I've been in, there's a peer group of CIOs, and we all invest in some of the same technology, some of it's different, but we'll listen to each other, and if one of our peers has had a good experience with a company, that comes high on the list in terms of taking a meeting with that company.
Great. Well, thanks for being here and sharing some of your experiences and giving us advice on how to best work with the office.
My
of the
pleasure.
CIO.
It's really been great working with this team, and I just want to say thanks for letting me be a part of it. It's really been fun.
Awesome. Let's give it up for Tony Scott.
Sometimes I
Thank you.
wanna